Weird Science
is the revolution.
Blade number 6, written by Brian Hill, art by Lee Ferguson, colors by K.J. Diaz, letters by VC's Corey Petit. One of the things we were worried about, though, is you ended up having that big setup in the first bunch of issues with this Adana and the thing with Blade, and then all of a sudden, things really pedal to the metal, and then in that, you didn't end up even getting rid of that big bad. At one point, we were afraid that it was going to be canceled. There were rumors that it was actually canceled. And I asked Brian Hill, and he said no. And here we are. We are continuing it. And usually with the Marvel stuff, you have blocks of 5 because of the way that they end up doing their trades. So hopefully it does continue. But I do think that somebody said to him, listen, we got to get Dracula involved for some reason. But we have it here, and Dracula's training Blade. One of the things that you brought up, too, is the lack of Elena Casagrande again, which we liked her art on this book. And I don't know, maybe she's not on it anymore because she had backup artists fill in stuff. And now we have a whole new artist. So we'll see.
That's a shame, isn't it, Jim? It's not terrible, the art, but it's not her. It's not as good as it has been. And you can see the difference on the cover. She does the cover and it's great. And it's like inside, it's okay.
And I think people really do like her fight scenes. And usually you'll have a couple spread pages. So if she was on this, I think it would have even read quicker.
They are pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. So you're there in Chernobyl. You're there with Dracula, and you have Blade training. And Blade is beating these blood visages, these blood vampires that Dracula's able to make. And it's kind of a weird play where you have Dracula as the mentor. Obviously, they don't like each other that much, especially Blade towards Dracula. But that's where the weird play of this is. It almost comes out by the end is, oh my God, I didn't know I had the vampire inside me all along, while Dracula starts to talk and try to convince Blade, I'm a little better than you think. I actually, not that he has the human inside of him, but he kind of wants to show Blade that. In the background of all this, I do think that Dracula's full of crap. And he's going to end up, and he does something in this that might end up being interesting later. But I do think that Dracula is playing a game with Blade. But overall, the thing that I like about it, where you have Blade training, he's beating up all these, blood things and blood zombies, they're called. And Dracula just keeps telling him, listen, you're fighting these things as a human. You're not fighting them as a vampire. And really going with Blade is the idea of you got to embrace the vampire within you. You got to end up, you're not going to beat this Adana as a human. She knows that. She's going to take advantage of it. And you're not using all your power then. You have to embrace the vampire. But of course, Blade doesn't want to do that. And the thing that it got me, it really felt, I don't know if you would have ever watched the movie Miracle about the 1980 U.S. Olympic gold medal team. It's a really good movie. But the big play of that is, so the big play of that is that, and that's a huge thing in the U.S. It's a little less now that time has gone, but it's still a big thing. But big thing is getting college players to be on a team, and the coach, played by Kurt Russell, awesome. He ends up and it's Herb Brooks in real life, he ends up saying, who do you play for? And these kids kept saying, I play for University of Minnesota. And then he'd make them do laps. Who do you play for? And it went on and on and on until one guy actually figured it out and said, I play for Team USA. He's trying to make. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Dracula wants Blade to say, I am a vampire. I'm actually a vampire, but he just keeps holding back. Where I do think that you should play out the deal. Dracula, I think in one line could have convinced Blade to do it a little earlier, even though it is pretty quick. The idea, what do you think everybody looks at you as? If you see Blade, do you think man, or everybody thinks vampire the minute
Absolutely.
You see him? Half vampire, but it's the vampire side that affects everything that he does. The vampire, if he goes and talks to the Avengers, he talks to this, they are thinking about him being half vampire, not sitting there thinking you're half man. It's just how it is, unfortunately, and it's kind of a sad thing. And I think that that's what I like about this is it is kind of, giving you that play of, hey, Blade, it's sad and all. I know you hate being that half vampire, but that's why you are what you are. If he's not half vampire, he's no hero at all. He'd have no use. He'd just
I think he's afraid, Jim, isn't he? He's afraid to fully embrace the vampire side in case, it takes him over.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the big play. And I really like that where you think of that side with Blade, the idea, and he says, like, when are you have the limits of man? And he says, I am a man. And Dracula's like, listen, so was I at one point. I was a righteous man. But if you're fighting this fight, unfortunately, you're gone. It's like, Bruce Banner wants to just be Bruce. But if the world's coming to an end, you need the Hulk. And I think that the idea, and we're going to have Hulk next issue, which is a good play because unfortunately with Bruce, a lot of times when he becomes the Hulk, there's no controlling it. So there's the problem. Blade can control it a little more. So it's, you almost think that Bruce would be pissed off. Like, at least you get to be that half man at all times. I can't. I'm a monster or I'm a man. There's no half or what. And so when he's fighting this, I do like that play. I do like that you want Dracula, because it works out in action movies. It works out in martial arts movies. But then you have that side that you keep thinking Dracula's just trying to use him. And yeah, Dracula wants him to be full vampire and would want him on his side and all that. So there is that little extra deal at that Blade doesn't want to end up, going full. And so Dracula ends up having more, vampires, things attack Blade to the point where Blade needs to go ham. And I don't know if it played out as well. Yeah, you rip the guy's arm off and he's grabbing intestines out of another, but they are vampires. So it's not like you're thinking, okay, he's still just Blade. He's just pissed or whatever. Kind of want him to start biting people at this point and really showing that he is embracing.
These really surprised me, like you say, like the ripping limbs off scenes. Like when he's killing with a sword, it's fine, but I didn't know he was that strong, that powerful. Can he do that? Can he rip somebody in half?
And isn't that the cool play? Because you haven't really seen him do that. If he lets loose, he can. So you see, here's the thing. He rips a guy in half, actually. I said intestines. He grabs this guy and rips him in half.
That is crazy, that scene, yeah.
So to me, as a character work deal with Brian Hill, he's showing you up, like, you could sit there surface level and go, holy crap, like Blade kicks ass. Oh my goodness. But you could also sit there and say, oh, you know what? That's where I see Blade is a hero. He doesn't do stuff like this all the time because he is able to keep it under control and wants to. Like, it's almost like you can see in a fight, if you go back to any fight in the past, you can then say, he got beat up. He got all this when he could have ended it right away, but didn't want to embrace that darker side. I think it's really cool.
You got Dracula saying to him, like, that was not the work of a man. After he rips that guy in two, you're like, oh, jeez.
And I think at this point, it's funny, even though they're vampires, what really would have been terrible, all of a sudden, he rips that guy in half, and these fake vampire teeth come out. We realized they were all humans. And then Blade would flip out like, hey, now you did it. You crossed the line.
Never trust Dracula.
That'd be crazy. I like when you have Blade there and he's like calming. There's an eyeball next to his foot. He ends up coming down. He's like, all right, I guess. Like he really doesn't want to do this, but if he doesn't beat that down, everybody's dead anyway. So why not just go for it? Why not go for the deal? But that's when Dracula, again, if you want to look at it at that idea of just, oh, it's lame Dracula helping Blade, but I just keep thinking that Dracula is doing this. Let me get him. Let me show him how the vampire side, so he really will embrace it. So then I can have him drink my blood, and then I can end up controlling him. And Blade starts talking, and again, I wish that you had Blade say, a little more than just no, and then Dracula says yes, and he goes, okay. I mean, that's really what it is. He says to Dracula, what is the deal? You're going to control me. How does this work? And he's like, no, I'm not really giving you my power. I'm giving you our power. I'm giving you the power of the vampires. And when you drink this, you're going to see just what it is to embrace that side.
Let me ask you, Jim, if Dracula offered you a drink, like it had his blood, it's got DMT and it's got Adderall in it, would you take it?
No.
Not
I do. We say that. I took the Adderall earlier because I have ADHD, but maybe. No, it would weird me out. But I don't even like drinking like tomato juice. And then have that and it'd be all warm. Like, can we chill this a little? Maybe, mix something in with it, like maybe a vodka.
He's very trusting, isn't he, Blade? He takes it and he drinks it, and then he's like, he looks like he's in trouble.
I might want to say, like, can we get some, lab tests here? I've seen Dracula at points where you like go into a room and Dracula be there with like 900 naked guys and gals, I might need him to be tested for some STDs before I actually do this whole thing. Like, I think right away seriously though, this is what we're seeing here. It actually is the truth. That's how Tommy Lee got hepatitis. He ended up drinking some of Dracula's blood. I heard that one time on a documentary. But you end up with all this going down. He is going to embrace that vampire side. So by the end, when you see that next up the Hulk, which you do have Bruce trying to get a hold of, Blade because of this Adana and Adana bringing monsters out and things like that, it's affecting him. I'm not so sure that we're really talking to Blade anymore. I think that when you end up seeing the Hulk and even the cover for next issue, I think the Hulk's there and might actually have to knock some sense back into Blade because I think he might be a little frenzied. But I like this. I actually liked it. I like seeing where Dracula is explaining, hey, I'm pretty bad. I'm Dracula, for crying out loud. But I wasn't always a vampire. I was somebody who ended up going to war and fighting battles for what I thought was my God, things like that. And then, unfortunately, circumstances led me to being a blood-sucking fiend of Dracula. I might be the worst of the worst, but at one point I wasn't just that. It's okay. I thought that the Dracula stuff and what you can watch and think of while it's going on is a little deeper than maybe what is on the page. You know what I mean? If you think about things as you're going. But yeah, at the end, I think Dracula's trying to control Blade, which would be a notch in his belt. That would be something that he would really be happy about. So we'll see. But even then, when Dracula says at the end, "Are you a man?" He's like, "Not anymore." And I do like it's like that whole mentor deal of it, including how Blade came about and the things with his past. Like, I have done enough for you. Now leave my house, Daywalker. Like, ooh, he's kicking him out. But yeah, I think he wants him to just go kill Adana, obviously, but then we'll see the repercussions of drinking that awful blood. But next issue, we get Hulk. But what would you give this?
Well, as I say, it's not a bad issue. It's just not as good as I thought it was earlier on. Not a lot happens, does it, Jim? Even though we get some great fight scenes with him fighting Dracula in various guises, bats and smoke. So overall, I'm going to give this, 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. I'm an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. It's not perfect, but I'm excited to see what this means. I think that what we're going to get in this book, unfortunately, might be something like we're seeing for next issue. We might get guest star of the month. I don't know that this book, it doesn't seem to be selling great. And so I think that you're going to start adding a lot of things just to have Hulk on the cover. People would look like, oh my God, Dracula and Blade? I got to go, oh my God, Hulk and Blade? Like it seems like it's going to end up being something like that.
It does tend to happen a lot, doesn't it, with these books that aren't really selling as well?
It works. I mean, Blade going around, solving crimes, making up rhymes. He could just join up with some people. I don't know, but we'll see how it goes. But I'm 8 out of 10. I'm looking forward to it.
Weird science is the revolution.